These are the papers that were on your husband's desk the night he left to see Mr. Neal.
Yes. The police examined them, of course. They did not consider them important.
Lady Warminster, did your husband carry much money with him?
I thought about that too, Dr. Watson. He rarely carried more than a few pounds. I don't know what he could be living on.
Holmes, do you think it was something that Lord Warminster found here, or something that he knew before he came home?
Excellent, Watson. Excellent. I believe we can assume it was something he found here upon his return, or else he would have gone directly to the Neal house.
What could it have been, Mr. Holmes? The police say there's nothing in those letters or papers.
Well, there is no letter to match this envelope from Messrs. Goldhawk and Scrimshaw.
They are our bankers.
Watson, I would like you to do something that is in your professional capacity.
Certainly.
I would like you to reach Inspector Lestrade at Scotland Yard and exhume the body of Mr. Neal.
And take some tissue to compare with the bloodstains found on the carpet in the Neal's library.
Thank you, Watson. I'll meet you back at Baker Street.
Excuse me, Lady Warminster. I'll see myself out.
Of course, Dr. Watson. Is it important what you've asked Dr. Watson to do?
Yes. Lady Warminster, is it possible that there was a relationship between your husband and Mrs. Neal?
If Inspector Lestrade had asked me that question, I would have said it was ridiculous. But I am speaking to Sherlock Holmes, and though the suggestion may sound ridiculous, it is possible.
Thank you. We will accept that it is possible, but your opinion is...
My opinion is that it is impossible. But that would explain the motive that everyone is looking for.
Very conveniently. But this time I agree with you, Lady Warminster, and say... unlikely. And to solve this case, that is what we must do. The unlikely.
Bloody ridiculous, dragging me from my house for this. I was just sitting down to my supper.
I'm sorry, Inspector.
Kippers.
It won't take long.
I like kippers.
You'll be home in an hour.
They'll be cold. Nothing worse than cold kippers.
Yes.
Unless it's cold tea.
These blood tests are very important.
So is my supper. Scientific mumbo-jumbo. The man's dead. What more do you need to know?
Holmes said.
Oh, Dr. Watson, don't mention that name to me on an empty stomach.
All right, you can come out now, Albert. She's gone.
Did you get the money?
Yes.
How much did you get?
25 pounds.
25 pounds?
I can't get any more until your will has been dealt with, Albert. You're dead, remember?
But I must have money. I've got to get away.
Then you'll have to do what you've always done. You'll have to steal some.
Steal?
You murdered Lord Warminster. Why do you cringe at theft?
I didn't mean to kill him. I've told you. He was going to bring in an auditor.
You would have found that you've been stealing from him for years.
That's not important now. I need money. Where do we get it?
Not we, Albert. You.
No, Elizabeth. We. It won't be long before Holmes contacts the bankers and discovers I'm a swindler. And then it might occur to him that you might have lied about which man you identified as the corpse. Oh, I don't think they'll arrest you for protecting your dear husband who you love so deeply. But you'll have nothing. Not this house, not the clothes on your back. Send Lady Warminster a note saying that her husband has contacted you and that he needs money to get to the continent. And if she hasn't enough money, she can bring her jewelry. She'll bring it.
I'm sure she will. But that won't stop her from speaking to Holmes in the morning. Oh. I see. You plan to kill her, too?
Not here. I'll find a quiet place.
And when she's found, they'll think her husband did it.
It's a perfect crime in its way. And they can only hang me once anyway.
All right. We've buried him, and we've dug him up. Why don't we just put him back and tell Holmes he disappeared? Now, that'll give him a real mystery to worry about.
We can open it now, Inspector.
Open it so we can all go home.
Easy now, lads. Careful, careful.
Warminster fought with Neil and killed him, and mark my words, when we find Warminster, he'll confess.
I don't think so, Inspector.
Sound more like Holmes every day. Warminster killed Neil. It's crystal clear.
We've solved another case, Inspector. Unfortunately, not this one.
You'll know everything in a moment, Lady Warminster.
Mr. Neal. My husband is dead.
Yes.
You killed him. Why did you send for me? To finance your escape. I see. And you plan to kill me.
Only if you force me to.
My maid knows that I've come here.
Which is why we must leave immediately. You have no choice, Lady Warminster. I have no choice.
What are we doing here? Can't do anything here. We should be in Scotland Yard.
What would we do in Scotland Yard?
What would we do in Scotland Yard? Scotland Yard standard procedure. That's what we'd be doing in Scotland Yard.
Holmes said to meet him here.
Holmes said, what does he care? He's had his supper. Does Holmes know everything?
He knew enough to send us to the cemetery.
He'll send us all to the cemetery.
Hampstead Heath, cabby. This isn't Hampstead Heath, cabby.
No, Mr. Neal, this is Baker Street. Constable, take this man into custody and hold him for Inspector Lestrade. Lady Warminster.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
You had it all wrong, Holmes. Oh, good evening, Lady Warminster.
Good evening, Inspector Lestrade.
Holmes had it all wrong. You won't believe this, Holmes, but the killer is Neil. Dr. Watson was with me. Isn't that true, Dr. Watson?
That is true.
And it's my guess that Mrs. Neal is in on it, too. Don't worry. We'll find her, and we'll find him, too. I'll have all my men on the streets tonight. We'll scour the city, and... Thank you. Tell me, Holmes, what was in that letter that made Lord Warminster run to the Neal house?
His bankers had discovered that there was a large discrepancy in his account.
But why did Neal kill him?
So that he wouldn't be exposed as a thief.
When did you first suspect that the bodies had been switched?
Yes, Holmes, I must say that never occurred to me. Though I thought that my idea that Neal suspected Lord Warminster was having an affair with his wife was a good one. As I say, it wasn't true, but it was a logical possibility.
We had been told that Lord Warminster had rushed out of his house. I don't believe that one rushes to meet an outraged husband who might be tempted to bash your head in with a blunt instrument. Under the circumstances you suggested, Watson, a man would walk slowly. Very, very slowly.
Good evening, Constable.
Good evening, sir.
That's a real pea souper.
Yes. Mind your step, sir.
Thank you. I shall.
Shocking. Ghastly.
What's ghastly?
Was a mysterious body found hanging from a street lamp. No clue. Police have no theories to... What's that?
What?
That tea.
It's a West African poison. Leaves absolutely no trace.
In the teapot?
Remember the Chatsworth murder? The police never identified the cause of death. I'll wager this was it.
Best teapot.
I'll have the pot cleaned out and ready for use by tea time.
Don't worry, I shall never drink another drop from that teapot.
Why not? You have before. Last week in this very same pot.
Please don't tell me.
Wait for me, cabby.
A gentleman is coming here.
How do you deduce that?
Through keen, analytical, inductive reasoning. Besides, the man was talking to the driver who pointed to this address. The gentleman has now entered the building.
What else can you deduce about our visitor?
Let me see. Early 30s, good tweeds, fashionably cut. I would say a man of means. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not at the window.
It's very simple to deduce things based on what one sees. Sherlock Holmes ought to be able to tell me about the man before he sees him.
A gentleman doesn't normally call on someone without an appointment unless the matter is both unusual and pressing.
What else?
He just came up to town from the country and he...
How do you know that he came up from the country?
A gentleman, as you describe him, does not normally wear tweeds in town.
You wear tweeds in town.
I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Devon. I don't have an appointment, but I would like to speak